right, welcome to a very special episode of Cosmic Road where we are joined by experiencer Justin Bush. Welcome to the channel, Justin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was really particularly drawn to your information because of Gray Al, who sent me a link to one of your interviews where you were describing beings that look a lot like the alien in the alien interview at S4 Area 51, popularized by the research of John Stewart, who I've had on the channel many times, talking about the various pieces of evidence that seem to suggest that that alien interview is legit. And then you come along and you say that you've actually encountered beings like that.
Yeah.
Now, that might be a spoiler. Maybe you want to start at the beginning of your story. Just take us through your experiences. Are you a lifelong alien abductee or contactee? And how would you characterize your experiences?
Yeah, I would say it's been I mean, I don't know how to explain it to people. It's been like off and on periodically. I think it actually probably started with my dad or my mom. But like when I was 5 years old in 1993, my father and mother were like separating, and I was outside playing. We're supposed to come in when the sun goes down, but my dad would have he we had our phone on the wall, so he would be arguing with my mom during their kind of separation, and he used to always lean up against the door where and like kind of look out the window, just space out like while they're fighting or whatever. So I didn't want to go in because he was angry and fighting with her. So I just kept playing outside, waiting for him to get off the phone. And he has this thing where he if he gets really upset, he'll go for a drive. So he's like, whatever, Teresa, and slams the phone down, and he kind of burst out the front door. And I don't think he realized I was still outside. But when he came outside, he saw me and he pointed at me. He was like, "Hey!" And I was like, "Oh man, I'm in trouble." And he was just like, "Get your butt in the truck." And I was like, "Do I have to?" And he was like, "Get in there." So he puts me in the truck and he kind of peels out. He's really angry, like super angry. And I was like, "Where are we going?" He's like, "None of your business." And he's just typical. He's going through a divorce. He's pretty mad. He doesn't want to talk to me, but I think he was going to drive because everybody was asleep. But he realized like, oh, my son is like, I can't leave him. The other ones are in their room, probably sleeping. But so anyway, he throws me in the truck. He gets to the end of the roadway and he turns, and there's like a dead end road that goes down to the ocean. And so he kind of paused, like he was making a decision. He made a right and started driving. And then he was like, "We're going to the end of the road," which I already realized because it's a dead end, like there's nowhere to go. So we're driving real slow. Like he always drove super slow on that road, like 25 miles an hour, maybe less. And I don't know why he did that. It's just how he was. So we saw this light, or I saw it, and was like, "Hey, what is that?" It's like maybe 700 yards, maybe 500 to 700 yards away, probably like 800 yards from our house, maybe. It's in the corner of this field. So I point at it, and he's kind of still angry in his head. So he just kind of looked over and went, "It's a ghost," and just kept driving. And my father's also kind of a smart aleck. So I've said that to people, and they were like, "Oh," and I'm like, "No, he was just being a jerk. Like he's just kind of still angry." But the road turns, and so we are kind of headed away from it, if that makes sense. And then when the road turns back, we're now pointed at it. So now it's kind of right in the front of the truck, like the front window. And so he keeps looking over at it, and he mumbled to himself. He was like, "What the heck is that thing?" And when we came up as close as the road would get, which is this thing was maybe 100 yards off the road, it was probably floating, I don't know, maybe 14, 15 feet off the ground, I'm guessing. But it had this bright orange light on it, and you couldn't really make out the body of the object. So we didn't know if it was like a truck with a single light on the top of it, like in the corner of the field or something. Like my grandfather is the farmer of this field, so nobody should be out there. But it was one of those things like, well, maybe it's a piece of equipment, maybe it's somebody dumping trash. Like we don't know. So he stopped to look at it, and this thing kind of was doing that, like a candle, just kind of doing this. it all of a sudden started flying towards us around the corner of the field, and then it made these two abrupt movements. One, two. Oh, excuse me. Before it did that, so it comes around the corner of the field. It shines this immensely bright spotlight out the front, and it was like conical, but it was very. It was almost like a laser, but it was in a cone shape, and it swept it through these cluster of trees that were off to our kind of our right, and it started like it was going to search for something. You know what I mean? But as it turned this on, started sweeping the light, it made these two abrupt movements, one, two, and maybe this thing was probably 15, 20 feet from the truck. It landed right on the edge of the road. So my father had pulled off two wheels into the ditch. And so it landed kind of on the top of the ditch, just a few feet off the roadway, maybe 15, 20 feet max from the edge of his truck to this craft. And at this point, you could see it was some sort of craft. You couldn't really disc, maybe, I don't know, egg shape maybe, but the light and then the that spotlight kind of made it hard to see. You could just see it better, if that makes sense. But it landed, this doorway opened up, and then these creatures got out. And since it was past, sundown, my dad had his like high beams on, kind of his headlights. The first creature got out and walked right in front of his truck, right into the high beams, and came around to my side of the window. And then these other ones went over to my dad's side. So I stood up and turned to, like, I'm watching this thing, and so I turned to address it when it came to my side, and it said, "Do not be afraid. We mean you no harm." It's the first thing it said to me, and then they took my dad out of the truck, and there was like a little bit of a commotion between them. I looked over there once or twice to see what was going on, but the creature like reassured me that everything would be okay. That creature looks just like the one in the alien interview, and in fact, so that was 93. It happened again. I want to say it was 97, and then I should have wrote it down, but not probably 93, or excuse me, 93, 94, and maybe 95, and then the year 2000, and then maybe like 2022, 2023, or excuse me, 2002, 2003. But it happened periodically. 2009, I had another like big abduction event, and these are the same ones. Like they're the same ones.
Do you always get taken by the same group of beings or the same race of being?
I think they're the same race, but I don't necessarily know if they're the same ones. Like I kind of suspect that male, because they tell you that they're male and female. Like I don't even know how to explain it to people. You can't tell by looking at them, or at least I can't tell. But they have this way of like projecting themselves to you. Like they tell you that they're male. They tell you they're female, and I don't have a way of. It would just be like if I walked up to you and you were like, "Hello, ma'am," I'd say, "I'm a sir." Like, it's kind of like that. But because they're telepathic, it's a telepathic communication. It's not verbal. It's they're letting you know.
The aliens are giving you their pronouns. That's very, very considerate.
Well, I
Uh,
think I think it might not even be like that. I think it's more like it's innate in their communication. Like it's kind of like it's underlying. Like the one female from 2009, she had like presented with this extremely feminine voice, like kind of low, but clearly a woman's voice.
Now, this was a telepathic voice.
Yeah, she. They all. I've not spoken with any of them that spoke verbally. It was
Now,
always telepathic.
how tall were these creatures?
This, so I'm guessing he was probably 4 foot tall. His head was just above the window to my father's truck. In fact, I think maybe his neckline was maybe below the window of that truck. I think that was a Ford. Um, I don't know the exact model. Maybe like an older F-150 model. So maybe like I don't know, 6 inches, 7 inches above the window, like the bottom of the window plate. So maybe like 4 4 foot, I'm guessing. but
Eh?
they seem to vary in height. So in 2009, when I had an encounter, the male, the one that, whatever, presented as male, he was the shortest out of the three that I saw. The female was the tallest. I suspect she's between 4.5 and 5 foot, if I had to guess. A lot taller than people, I think, generally consider them to be. But I'm guessing, call her 4.5 foot. And the other one was maybe between 4 and 3.5 foot, I'm guessing. And then there was another male that just a few inches taller than him. But yeah, they vary a little bit in their height, and they kind of sometimes they vary almost in like the width of their head. It looks like almost some of like the female looked like maybe her head was a little bit more narrow than the shorter male. So, but I besides that, those little teeny tiny differences, there's not like it also happens fast where it's like you don't have time to kind of like judge things properly. Like you're in the situation and they're like, you have to come with us. And then you just start doing what they tell you to do. You don't have like a whole lot of time to kind of try to measure everything up. But that was the most notable thing to me between like differences in them were height. They all wore very similar clothing or almost exactly the same clothing, skin tone almost the same, facial features, head, eyes.
Were
Unlike,
they gray? Were they tan? What color were
no,
they?
no, these were more of like a tan color, more of like a yellowy kind of color. When I got close to one of them, the one thing that I did notice how splotchy the skin was. It seemed to have some blue, some kind of like an off white, and some of this kind of burnt yellow patchiness in the skin. Um, when you step back, they have that tannish kind of, I don't even know what color you'd call it, but they have that kind of tannish appearance. But when you get real close to them, they're just like a human, where you have, a variation of color. Like the closer you get, the more noticeable it is. But they seem to be patchy in their skin. They had a little bit of like this olive green color as well that gave them that kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, like darkness to their skin, like this olivey. I don't know what to call it, but olive
Now,
green. Yeah.
are these conscious recollections of these events, or are these recovered from hypnotic regression? Do you have full recall of these events?
I've
Uh, Tell us about that.
I've never done hypnotic regression. These are all fair. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. I've had a few where I don't remember anything, and then afterwards, like the memories, like you have like what they call spontaneous memory recall. Like if you're walking in a grocery store and you see something, you go, "Oh, remember that time in middle school? I haven't thought about that in 20 years." It's some of them are like that, but most of them I remember them as they are, and I do have missing time. So, for instance, he came up to me and talked to me. He asked me a bunch of questions in with my father in the truck. He asked me how old I was. He asked me if I went to school. He asked me where we were going and what we were doing. He was asking questions so fast that it like overwhelmed me, because it was just too fast, and I let him know like it was too much, and he kind of slowed down and let me answer. Um, you don't have to answer; you just have to think of the answer, and they like suck it up. But anyway, I forget what I was telling you that. Oh, right. So I'm talking to him for a little bit, and all of a sudden it was like someone covered my eyes, and I just like lost vision. And when my vision came back, he was gone, and I was looking around for him, and I was like, "Where'd he go?" And my dad was like panicking. So the reason I tell people I lost my vision is because I heard my father get in the truck, and my dad's a big man. So when he gets in the truck, it rocks. So I heard him get in. I heard him, the truck rocked. He slammed the door. And then it was like my vision came back. And my first thought was, the creature, where's the little man at? And I'm looking left, I'm looking right. My dad is just screaming at me. And he's telling me to sit down, but he's so like caught up. He's like afraid. So he's like hitting me, boom, boom, sit down, sit down, sit down. And he was yelling so fast, I didn't even know what he was saying. But he was saying, sit down, sit down, sit down. And one of the times he hit me so hard that it literally just slumped me to my butt. And then he just peeled out. And so he spins around, right? And turns around to go back, and the craft is just slowly flying across the field away from us. So he did like a 3 point turn to he had to go home. It was the only direction he could go, and I saw the craft flying away. But so I have no memory. Once my I lost my vision, I have no idea what happened. I have no idea how long it took. Like it could have been an hour, it could have been a minute. But I've had several of those with missing time.
And you've never been curious to have hypnotic regression to see what may have happened during that missing time. Are you afraid of what that might be, or would that be traumatizing? Is that a concern?
I mean, I think it's already traumatizing enough. Like some of these encounters I've had completely flatlined me. Like in 2009, probably like for 4 months afterwards, let me put it this way: for several months afterwards, I was not okay. I never went back to work. I couldn't sleep at night. I was terrified that they were going to abduct me again. Um, for some reason, some abductions are worse than others. Like that one, the next day I was telling my grandmother about it, but I was okay with it. I mean, it was weird, but I was okay. And then cut to a few years later, I get abducted, and it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I don't, especially with missing time, you don't know what happened. Like I have no idea why I am having this sort of reaction because I can't remember what happened. So it's like just imagine blinking and then opening your eyes, and now you're severely traumatized for some reason, and you don't even know why. Like I have no idea what they did, or you. It's not exactly like that. It's like you see a light, and then boom, and then it's like 3 hours later, and now you're terrified, and you're running, and you're paranoid. You're like, they're going to get me, they're going to take me, and you have no idea why you're saying these things or doing these things. You're just trying to like hide. Like, I got to get home. I got to find a place to hide. I got to, and all you remember is seeing this craft. Right. I had several things like that. I'm not adverse to hypnotic regression, but because, so when I first kind of entered the UFO field, or whatever you want to call it, I noticed immediately that people just attack you for hypnotic regression. So there was a lot of people that did really bad hypnotic regression, influenced people, manipulated people, and because of that, people are adverse. A lot of normal, regular people are adverse to listening to stories that come purely from hypnotic regression. So I've not gotten it because I just wanted to put my story out in as much detail and as much memory as I have before I try to influence myself in any kind of way. But I am extremely curious about hypnotic regression.
Well, I'm not advocating hypnotic regression for anybody because I know people that have had regression that recover traumatic, memories, the things they would rather not have recalled. But I do know cases where people have been regressed and they recall wonderful experiences where beings have taught them about, using their chakras and, all sorts of, amazing, wonderful things. So, I completely understand why somebody would not want to have that. And, obviously that's up to you. It sounds like your dad may be an experiencer as well. Did y'all ever talk about that?
Yeah, we talked about it a few times. Not, I mean, yes and no. It's hard to explain. All right. So that was like maybe the second time we had an experience together. The first time there was this weird light, and I saw it, and I told my mom about it before my mom left. My dad, she was like, "Hey, look at this," and he was like, "Let's get out of here." Like he's like, "We need to go." And he was like, and she was like, "Well, what is it?" And he was like, he's like, "How am I supposed to know, Teresa? Let's get it, go inside." So he was scared of it. So I'm pretty sure he had other experiences that he was frightened of it. And in fact, he did that pretty much every time we saw a UFO together for the rest of our lives. Like, we got to get out of here. Like, there's a UFO. Um, but anyway, the day after that abduction, where he got abducted in his truck, I was telling my grandmother about it. She came over to watch me while my dad went to work. and he overheard me talking to her, and he got really mad at me, and he like told me, he was like, "Don't you ever tell anybody about that." And he was pretty brutal. But he told me, "Don't tell your teachers, don't tell your friends." He said, "Don't even tell your family. If you tell anybody about that, they'll take you away and I'll never see you again." And then he said, "They'll come and take me and lock me in a loony bin." And he said, "And they'll never let me out," or something like that. He was really angry. And then he like stormed off. He like slammed the front door and stormed off. That was the first time there was any kind of like acknowledgement, if that makes sense, like where he actually acknowledged that it happened and stuff. The longest I've ever talked to him about it was when I was in my late 20s. So I had another UFO encounter with my girlfriend, and we went over his house, and I was telling him what happened. And my girlfriend was like, "Oh my God, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen." And I was like, "That was nothing." I said, "One time this happened, and my dad, for the first time I've ever seen him talk to somebody like outside the family about it, he talked about what happened. It was a specific UFO event, but I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. My brother's like 10 or 11. And there was a Tic Tac that came down over our house, and the military showed up and tried to intercept it with a Black Hawk helicopter. And my father, it was my father, me, my older brother, and then my grandfather lived right next door. He saw it too. I didn't know that at the time, but the next day when I went over his house, he asked me, he was like, "Did you see that too?" Kind of. And I was like, "Yeah, I saw it." And then he was like, "Send your dad over here. I want to talk to him." So I went back over to my dad's house to send him my grandfather. I don't know what they talked about, but my grandfather admitted it to me that he also saw it. So my dad talked about that with my girlfriend and me. He also talked about it with my mom. She's passed away now, but I found out more from my mom than I found out from anybody. And then he confirmed it. Like later, like my mom told me, I had an encounter in 2009 and told my mom about it. And she was like, "Oh, that's what happened to your dad." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, right." You know what I mean? Like he would tell me, like he would talk about it if that happened. So I didn't believe her at all. And then she said that not only did that happen, this happened. Not only did that happen, but this happened. And I was like, when did that happen? You know, I didn't believe her at all. My my mom left, so I had very little trust for her. You know what I mean? Like when she came back into my life. So I just kind of blew her off. But then later on, when I was in my late 20s and I had another encounter, I talked to my dad about it. And I was like, "Hey, did mom said this happened? Did that?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, that happened. Yeah, that happened when I was over here." And you know, he confirmed all of those things that my mom told me. Like every one of them that I wasn't around for. So I had no idea. But he talked, it's hard to explain. He's talked about it, he's admitted to it, but he's not the type to just like what we're doing. He would never do this. It's more like you look around, you make sure nobody's listening, and then you're like, "Yeah, that did happen." And it, you know, this is what I saw. And he, in fact, the one gray alien encounter he had, that I wasn't there, he said, um, he was trying to describe them. He said they have a big light bulb shaped head and these big slanted black eyes and blah 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 blah, right? And I was like, "Well, that sounds like a gray alien." And he was like, "It was a demon." And now he refused to call them gray aliens. He's like, "They're demons." He's like, "They're demons." And he stuck with that his whole life. And I was like, "Well, you're describing a spaceship and a gray alien." And he's like, "They're demon." He refused to call them gray aliens. Describe them exactly, but he refused to call them gray aliens. I think he probably still refuses to call them gray aliens. But yeah, he's had his, yeah, we've talked about it, but just not, you know, not in any sort of, I would have liked to have talked to him more about it. You know what I mean? Because it traumatized the heck out of me. I know it traumatized him, but he was one of those guys that you just like bottle it up and you never talk about it until you explode. And so I got very little from him, just kind of acknowledgement. I got more. My mom gave me more details about things that happened to my father than my father. He just kind of like, "Yeah, that happened. Yes, that happened. Yes, I was there. And yes, and here's this." If you say it wrong, like if you're like, "Well, I heard it was this," you're like, "No, no, no. it was actually like this. And he was like, that's incorrect. And so he would like correct you, but it was like you were telling him his own story, which is kind of a, weird dynamic. But
Yeah, you could give
yeah,
him details and he could confirm or deny, and that was about
yeah,
it.
yeah, pretty
Oh,
much.
okay. I've got to ask you about the Tic Tac. Was that was your sense that that was from the same group of beings that were typically abducting you? Was that a different faction? Was that potentially man-made? What was that?
No, I think that was the same ones I've encountered. Um, Somebody else asked me. They said, what do you think it was doing?" Because it didn't really do much. It came down, right? It was jumping all around, so it was disappearing from like point A, and then it was doing this. So it was jumping from point to point. But like if you took a camera and you filmed an airplane, right, and then you just took all the footage in between point A and point B and cut it out, it just literally appears here and then like that. And it was jumping around, and then it stopped doing that, and it just kind of came down perfectly level and hovered over the trees across the street from our house. Probably about 300 yards away or so is the tree line. So it hovers over the trees, and then the helicopter comes, and then it just leaves. It didn't seem to do much of anything. So
Do you feel like the military or whoever was in charge of the helicopter that they were trying to protect you
oh
from
no,
being? No.
no, 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 no. I think they were trying to down it. Yeah, they intercepted it. They tried to cut it off, so it started to fly away. They literally tried to kind of like if you have a car coming down the road, and if you just speed up enough, you can get there before the car gets there. So it literally the craft was over here flying south north like this. They beeline for this position to try to cut it off. They weren't able to cut it off. They banked twice, got between it, and then it went down, and they kind of followed it, and then they shot a beam of light out the front of the helicopter at the craft. I do not know. You know, maybe it was a spotlight, maybe it was a weapon of some kind, maybe I don't know. But I got the distinct impression that they were trying to down this craft. Like they literally tried to like it was like they were trying to force it down. Um, Somebody asked me about that. Like, what do you think they were doing? I honestly think they were just showing themselves to us. I know that sounds crazy, but I think they just wanted to come down and for us to see it. And then they just left. And I think the government just wanted to get a hold of that thing. They wanted that craft.
Well,
Uh,
that is an interesting angle. Do you think that the government could use abductees as bait to lure these things in so that they can then shoot at them?
yeah, I think they might be using me as bait. Yes. So I've had a government encounter, a few of them, but I had a pretty bad one in 2018. So I had a UFO encounter, and some military guys showed up afterwards, and they grabbed me and questioned me and stuff like that.
I think I
And
saw a little bit of that interview. Tell us about that. That seemed very intriguing
um,
and important to understand what the control group, as I call them, are doing.
right, so I don't know. All right, so this really scared me. I didn't expect this to happen. So when it happened, I was surprised. I was scared, and in fact, so I joined the UFO community in 2018, and I started posting pictures and videos of some of the stuff that I saw. Like I was having these strange encounters, and I was trying to, for the first time in my life, my it was my girlfriend's fault. She was like, "You have to get evidence. Like you need to collect evidence." Up until that point, I just wanted to put it behind me. Like every time it would happen, I would just try to forget about it because it was so traumatic. So she's like, "No, what are you talking? You have to get pictures. You got to get videos and whatever." And then she was the one that told me to join a UFO group. She was like, "There's got to be like what did she call it? Like a support group." She's like, "There's got to be a support group out there somewhere that you can join because you're having a really hard time. Like you're clearly struggling with these encounters. So like there's got to be somebody you could talk to." So I joined this group, and the first thing they ask is like, "Were you able to get any evidence or whatever?" So I posted some pictures and videos, and the pictures and videos immediately got taken down. And then the people in the group were like, "What the heck? Post it again." So yeah, okay, post it, taken down. Post it, taken down. And then the entire group it was a private group, right? So you had to apply, they talked to you a little bit. If they wanted to accept you, they'd accept you. All of a sudden the group got flooded with AI like bots, like hundreds of them. Just like you could watch the membership, like you have a little membership screen, you could watch who's in there, just boom, 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 boom. And within like 1 second of these bots joining the group, they flooded the group with just complete and total BS. Just like a green, like AI generated nonsense, like a green background with letters that say, "Are cats aliens?" or just not just boom, boom. So the entire timeline in seconds, the whole timeline was just flooded with garbage, and our entire group just had hundreds of bots, and they were entering the group faster than you could boot them, than you could kick them. So the people in the group, we had a private chat, and they were like, "Hey, can you send us those videos and pictures in an email?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I sent the email, and they were like, "We opened the email, we didn't get it. There was nothing in the email." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I tried it again and tried it again. I ended up sending it to them like 13 times in a row as fast as I could. I was just like, boom, boom, and they're like, "Okay, we got it." When I did that, my phone got hacked, right? Like right in front of me. My girlfriend worked in IT for several years. I didn't. I'm like a laborer type, you know what I mean? Like, so I run to her with my phone as it's being hacked, and I was like, "What do I do?" And she took it. She went, "Oh my god, oh my god, uh, pull your battery out." So I yanked the thing in half, and I got to see what the hack. I got to watch part of the hack before I pulled the battery out. They went to my contacts, they went to my recent call log, they went to my text messages, and then they went into my pictures and videos. And right before I yanked the battery out, it was like when you go into your pictures and you like click select all like that, it was like they were going in there and selecting my photographs and videos. I yanked the battery out, and like 15 minutes goes by, I put it back in. When I put it back in, about half my pictures and videos were gone. All of those pictures and videos I had taken, like it was like they picked, let's say you have 3 years in your phone, right? It was like they picked a year and just wiped the whole thing out. So I was missing back probably like 6 or 7 months. It wasn't like they targeted specific pictures. It was like that they just wiped like half of what I had. So
I
anyway,
just have to throw in that John
sorry.
Stewart, who has been investigating the alien interview, has also had his phone hacked multiple times, and he's been talking
Yeah,
about that recently. It happened again.
yeah, I'm
So
pretty
this is
sure
apparently a tactic they use, and
I can
um,
show you something. I don't want to, but so you know how your phone tells you what like zip code you're in? One of the things you can do is you can look for when your phone is telling you coordinates that you're not at. So like your GPS tells you you're over there. Your like Google will say that you're in this zip code and you're in a different zip code. I'm not going to show you my phone. I was thinking about showing you, but that is a sign that your phone is actually instead of going to your local cell phone tower, your phone's being redirected. So I forget what they're called, but it's basically like kind of like a mobile hotspot that the intelligence community uses, and they get your phone to connect to it thinking it's a normal cell phone tower in order to collect your data. And I've been having that problem with I've been having several problems with my phone recently, so I'm fairly certain that I'm still very much being watched. I've also had some problems with black cars pulling up at night. I've had a helicopter fly over the house and hover over the house. I've had a bunch of stuff, but
have you ever had any My Labs or Me Labs experiences? Any military abductions?
I've had two so far.
Okay.
I've had one in 2018 and one in 2021. So my phone gets hacked. All the pictures and videos are gone. So I'm like, I've got to reach out to the FBI. Like that's the obvious thing to do. So I go online and I go into their online. It's supposed to be anonymous and all. I mean, anonymity wasn't the key. It was just it's supposed to be secure communications with the FBI. So I went in there and I wrote them out this whole long thing, and so you expect like maybe two guys will come up and knock on the front door with suits and ask you what happened. That's not what happened. 2 days later, I was watching a movie at night, and I heard somebody outside, and it was these guys, these military guys. It's a really long story. I don't know if I have time for it, but my girlfriend, who at the time she had seen some things, but she didn't believe in aliens. It's hard to describe, but she was like, something strange is happening. There's got to be an explanation for it. We should collect evidence, but it wasn't. She wasn't on the alien train, if you know what I mean. So I did what my dad taught me. I heard somebody. They came up to the back door and they stuck what looked like a camera in the door. So like they kind of pry the door and slip this little camera in. It bent 90 degrees up and then it rotated 90 degrees. And when it pointed straight at my face, it shot out straight, ripped out of the door, and then they ran down the stairs. And so I don't know if that's a camera. I just assumed it was. Like, I still don't know who's outside. I know somebody's outside and they stuck something in the door. That's all I know. But I assumed it was a camera because that's what it looked like, an endoscope. So I just was like, somebody just stuck a camera in the door. At this point, I'm thinking maybe it's the FBI, maybe it's somebody trying to break in the house. Like, I don't know. But I did what my dad taught me and woke my girlfriend up. And I was like, somebody's outside. They just stuck a camera in the door, and she was like, you're crazy. You've lost your mind. Like, she was like, why would anybody want to break in here? And why would anybody stick a camera in the door? Later on, she told me, when I woke her up and told her that, she said she thought I meant like a solid camera and stuck it through a solid door. And she was like, I just woke up and you're telling me they stuck a camera in the door. And she was like, I thought maybe you had a bad dream or something. So she jumps up, slips her boots on, whips her coat around. She's like, I'm going to prove it. There's nobody outside. And she stomps off outside. And I literally begged her not to go. Like, I got on my knees, I grabbed her wrist. Like, when she slipped her coat on, I grabbed her wrist and was like, please, you don't understand what's happening. I was like, please don't go out there. You don't understand. And she was like, yanked her arm away. And she was like, what the hell's wrong with you? You've lost your mind. She was like, you're delusional. You've gone crazy. And she stormed outside. And so the moment she stormed outside, I was like, they've got her. Like, whoever's out there, they've got her. So I kept looking out the window back and forth. I kept pacing back and forth. I'm in my underwear, by the way. It's the middle of the night. We live in the Appalachian Mountains. So even if somebody asked me, why didn't you call the cops? Because it would take 45 minutes to get them to be there. So it wasn't on my mind. And once she run outside, I was like, they've got her. So like I was just like, what do I do? So I'm pacing every 5 minutes. I'm looking out, I'm looking at the clock, I'm looking out the window, I'm looking, and I'm waiting, and I'm like, if it's aliens, they'll give her back. So I just have to wait, right? Which sounds crazy to people, but I just had an encounter, like, literally, I think it was either the night right before or maybe 2 nights before, something like that. It's either 1 or 2 nights before. So I literally was like, well, if it's aliens, they'll give her back. If it's the FBI, they'll eventually kick the door in, right? But I don't know exactly what's happening. So I just kept pacing and pacing and pacing. And then all of a sudden, I had this kind of overwhelming feeling after about 45 minutes or so that I have to go outside. I'm hesitant to say this. When they talk to you telepathically, right? It's almost like someone suggests something to you from like afar. It's very hard to explain this sort of I don't even know what you call it, like
Compulsion.
influence, like, yeah, like compulsion or influence. So I had this idea, and it was like, I have to go outside. They're not going to let her go until they get what they want. You'll be okay. You're going to be fine. You're going to survive, and they're not going to kill you. And so I had this overwhelming whatever, and so I got dressed. I put on my pants, my boots, my jacket, everything. By the way, it's like 13 degrees outside, something like it's February in the mountains. So I go outside, I open the door, and I edge around the corner, right? And I don't see anything, I don't hear anything, and I edge around the other corner. So it's like out the corner of the door and then around the corner of the house. When I peek around the corner of the house, there is a orb of light, which I thought might have been some sort of drone. about 70 feet from me, hovering maybe 4 or 5 feet off the ground. And it's just hovering there. Once I like came around the corner, I stopped and was looking at it, and it shot a few dozen feet to my right, and it went into a cluster of trees, and I lost sight. I don't know if the light turned off or if I just lost sight of it in the cluster of trees. So I kind of shot back and put my fists up. I don't know. I just did that. I just reacted. And then it's very stupid. You can't fight a drone, but I did that. So I just like shot back and was like, ugh. And then all of a sudden I hear walking from that same cluster of trees towards me. So I'm looking over there. It's like maybe 40 feet away or something. Um, so I'm watching and I see a silhouette. And so I start panicking and thinking it might be a black bear. And I don't know why I thought that, but I was like, oh my God, it's a bear. So I just start screaming my girlfriend's name. And there's this thing that happens when you're like when you don't want to believe what's happening. So you're like, maybe it's a deer, maybe it's an owl, maybe it's a goat, like there's this thing that you do where you're not thinking clearly. So I see this silhouette coming towards me pretty slowly, and I'm like, it's a bear standing on its legs. That was just my first thought. And as it got closer to me, it got close enough that the light from the back door was hitting it. And so as soon as it stepped into the light, I realized it was my girlfriend. And she was like slumped, and she was walking really funny. Like she could barely walk, right? But she was like slumped, her head was down, her hood was up, her jacket, her black jacket. And so I was screaming her name because I was scared that maybe she had gotten hurt by this bear, right? Which makes no sense at all. And so I'm like, well, maybe she's hiding somewhere. So I'm yelling her name out, yelling her name out. And then she walks into the light. And as soon as it walks into the light, I'm like, oh my God, it's her. So now I just keep yelling her name because I know it's her, and I'm trying to get her attention. She's not answering me. She's just walking like a zombie. Like she's definitely drugged up. Her eyes were rolled in the back of her head, like where she was just like clearly drugged. She walked right into me, like bumped right into me, and she was like, and looked up at me, and she was like, "Hey, can I have a cigarette?" And I was like, I just start panicking. I'm like yelling at her. I'm like, we got to get the F out of here. I don't know what's going on. I was like, this happened. And then, they stuck a camera in the door, and you've been gone for 45 minutes and blah, blah, blah. And then the light shot over there. I'm like, we got to get out of here. I'm just panicking. Right. So I'm just yelling 2 inches from her face, and she's like drugged out. Like she's talking to me, but she's not like there. You know what I mean? Like, it's like she hasn't snapped out of it. From that same cluster of trees, all of a sudden I hear a radio. It clicks on, and this guy goes, da, 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 and clicks off. She snaps out of it. She goes, oh my God, what was that? We got to find out what that was. And she starts running. Like, just
Was
starts.
that it was a hypnotic control of some sort?
I think she was drugged, and I think it like snapped her out of it. Hearing him use the radio, it like snapped her out. That's what I think.
Okay.
Maybe it is some kind of hypnotic control, but so I think that guy said the target's outside. That's what it sounded like. It sounded like he clicked the radio on and said the target's outside, and then clicked it off. I don't want to say that with 100% certainty, but that's what it sounded like to me. So she runs. Luckily, she was kind of out of it because she ran the wrong way. She ran right past the cluster of trees where this guy, his voice came from, and she ran around towards the road. And later on, she told me the reason she did that is because the only thing that she could think that makes sense was that there was a cop parked on the road with its lights out, and then that must be what she heard on the radio. But so we run to the road. She has a flashlight. She shines down one way, she shines down the other. There's clearly nobody there. I'm chasing after her, begging her to go inside. Like, I'm just begging her. I'm like, we got to get out of here. We got to get back in the house. Like, you don't understand what's going on, all this stuff. And she said later on, she was like, well, I was wondering why you were acting like that. You were acting so scared. She was like, it's just a cop. Like, obviously it's just a cop outside, you know? So anyway, finally I convinced her to go up towards the house. She started walking straight for that cluster of trees. So I'm like yanking her arm, like trying to keep a wide berth between that trees. Cause whoever's over there hasn't left. right? They haven't walked any, out or anything. So I'm just pulling her away from that. So we took like a wide angle around the trees to get to the back door. And we get up to the back door. We're finally going inside, and I'm like, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna lock the door, right? And she goes, I'm not going in. And she like yanks back, and I was like, we got to get out of here. And she was like, I want a cigarette. And I was like, please, please. And she was like, I'm not going in until I have a cigarette. She said, you can go inside without me, right? Now this is a woman that is clearly like drugged, like she just snapped out of it. Like she's conscious, but she's clearly like doesn't know what's going on at all. Like she's confused, right? And I have not been drugged yet, as far as I know. I am very alert, and I am very on like high, like I'm panicking. It's not funny. I shouldn't laugh about it, but it is comical afterwards because I'm like we gotta go. I'm panicking, like really panicking. So anyway, she says no, and I literally like in that moment I just went, oh, they're gonna take me. Like it was this realization, like, oh, they're gonna kidnap me now. And I was like, fine. And I pulled out my cigarettes. I lit two of them, and I handed her one. And remember, this guy's like, whoever's behind those trees is like 40 foot to my right, right. So I give her a cigarette, and then I I heard a sound. That's the last thing I remember. It sounded like air escaping from like a punctured tire. Like that's the last thing I heard. I talked to somebody that said it might have been an aerosol. I've also talked to somebody else that said it might have been a hallucinatory, audio hallucinatory. There's like let's say they shot a dart into you. There are some drugs that cause audio hallucinations, but the only person I really talked to about it said that they think it was scopolamine. I can't remember. It's benzodiazepine and sclopamine or sclopamine, something like that. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So I hear this sound, and I just immediately lose balance. Like it literally felt like I was about to black out. Felt like I was going to fall down. I felt the ground as they ran up next to us, like when somebody runs up to you, and just as I'm, when you're like slow blinking to sleep, like just as I'm like that, they grab my arms. I feel two people grab my arms. And for a brief moment, I was happy because I thought I was going to fall down. So I was like, oh, thank God, I'm not going to fall on the ground. But then the immediate realization is that I've been captured. So it was like, oh, thank God. Oh, my God. Like it was like this kind of really funny moment where you're like, you're on drugs now. And so you like realize how stupid your brain is. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So I black out when I came to. So I don't know how to tell this. When I first came to, I did not remember what I'm about to tell you. It came later on. It came the next morning. The next morning, I was sitting at the end of the bed, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, what happened last night? And I remembered some things. But in reality, what actually happened was these guys grabbed me, right? I black out, and then when I wake up, I'm in bed next to my girlfriend. And the very first words out of my mouth were, oh my God, I've been drugged. And she said, yeah, me too. That was the first things we were fully dressed. We had our boots on, everything in the bed. The bed had been stripped, like the whole bed had been stripped. The pillowcases, sheets, all that had been stripped and laid in a pile in the room. And there was muddy footprints everywhere in the threshold. There was muddy footprints. Like it looked like somebody walked on the bed, like stepped up on the mattress, like muddy footprints on the mattress. So basically the next morning, I was sitting at the end of the bed as after all this happened, and I was like, what happened last night? What I remembered that morning, what came back to me was when those guys grabbed me, I blacked out. When I came, like right before they let me go, it was kind of like my girlfriend, right? When she came up to me, it was like she could talk, she was conscious, but she was like, fuck, she was messed up, right? I remember them asking me questions. I remember they kept asking the same question over and over. I remember their voices. I remember the one on my right. was like the leader. The one on my left was like his underling of some kind. I remember my girlfriend saying something at one point, like "Hey, get off me" or something like that. Um, but I remember, well, the thing I remember really well is their feet. So when I was like this, and I was like, slow blinking or whatever, I could see their pants and their boots really well. Like, so it's my legs and then their legs, and I could see that really well. That these two guys that were holding me were wearing black pants, black boots. Um, but anyway, so these guys questioned me. Um, they questioned me about, so it was about a UFO I encountered the few days before, and they basically were saying like, um, who were they? What did they say to you? How tall were they? They were just asking me these questions over and over. Did they give you anything? Did you receive anything from them? Did they give you any orders? Did they tell you to do anything? What did they look like? Can you identify? If you saw photographs, could you identify the species that you encountered? Could you point them out? Like stuff like that. They wanted to know where did they take you? What did they tell you? Like, and they were asking everything like 3 times. It was like over and over. Like, and then so when they asked the question, if they gave you anything, I said yes, right? Um, and while I was answering, I didn't want to answer, but whatever this drug was, I would answer before I even could stop myself. And it was like, and I was like, why am I telling these people this stuff? Like, they asked me where they were like, where did they take you? And I said, the moon, like immediately. And I was like, why did I tell them that? And there was this kind of thing happening where they were asking and they kept asking. Sometimes they bring their voice up a little bit, like not yelling, but like being firm or whatever. And then they bring it back down and they would ask it boom, 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 and just like almost rapid fire, but slightly different each time. So anyway, they asked me if they gave me anything, if I had received anything, or if I had taken anything, and I said yes. And then they were like, "Where is it?" And then they kept saying, "Where's the device? Where's the device? Where's the device?" And the one guy on my left, so I told him where it was. It was in the bed. And the one guy on my left let go of me, and he like strip searched the bed. He took the sheet off. He was shaking everything out. He was tossing it in a pile next to the bed. And he stepped up on there to grab our pillows. And he was all muddy because it had snowed and then it had melted outside. So the entire little parcel of land was just complete mud. So he stepped up and grabbed the pillows, and he was like, "I got it." And then I know you don't, I don't think you cuss on your channel, but he was like, "I got it." And then he said, "What do you want to do with them?" And the other guy was like, "F them, let's get out of here." And they left. And it was like, when I first came to, I didn't know how much time had passed, but it literally was like 2 hours or so, from maybe 1:15 in the morning till about 3:15, or excuse me, 3:30. So it was like 2 hours and maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. I only remember the last few minutes of the interrogation when I was like, the drugs were wearing off. And so when these guys left, when they shut the door, it was just like my girlfriend when I watched her snap out of it, like when she heard the radio. When they shut the door, we both opened our eyes and kind of snapped out of it. And the drugs wore off really fast. You could still feel some side effects. They wore off really fast. Like full pins and needles on your skin. It was like you were a heater. Like if you ever play football outside for like an hour in the winter and then your whole body's steaming, it was like our whole bodies were steaming. And then there was a massive amount of euphoria, probably like the most euphoric feeling I've ever had in my life. So when they shut the door, I snapped out of it and I was like, "I've been drugged." And she said, "Yeah, me too." I described my symptoms. We sat up and she was like, "Can I please just smoke a cigarette?" And I was like, "Look at what they did." I was like, "Look what they did to the bed." And I was like, "Look at the sheets, look at the bed." And she was like, I know, I know. "Can I please just clean it up tomorrow?" And I was like, "Baby, just look, And she was like, "I know, I'll clean it. I promise I'll clean it up later. I just want to smoke a cigarette." I was like, "Baby, I don't want you to clean it up." I was like, "Just look at what they did." And she was like, "I know." I just want to smoke. And I was like, okay. And somebody else asked me about that. They interrupted her, I think, every time she tried to smoke. So I think she was just like, I woke her up and she went outside. We found a cigarette. So she told me she went around the backside of the house and lit a cigarette. And then the next thing she knows, she was standing next to me. Like she was like, I was standing right in front of you. And that man on the radio was talking on the radio. So we found her cigarette the next morning, and it was completely burnt up. Like if you ever used to smoke,
Yeah.
if you light it and put it on the ground, it just the whole thing is burns up. So but anyway, so she was like, I just want to smoke a cigarette. We walked outside, maybe I don't know, a minute max probably from when they shut the door. Like we sat up, had this very brief conversation, and walked straight outside. We were still in our boots, still in our clothes. When we went outside, I took two cigarettes, right? And I lit them and handed her one. And I was looking over at the field next to the house. I don't know why. I just had a bad feeling, like maybe they were still outside. I don't know why I felt that way. So I turned to look, and I just see this triangular craft, like a TR3B or a Belgian triangle or whatever. It looked just like the Belgian triangle, right? This thing just slowly lifts off. You couldn't see the craft. It was so dark, you literally couldn't see the craft until it lifted high enough where you could see the lights on the underbelly of the craft. So this thing lifts up, and I'm looking at. Well, at first I'm trying to figure out what I'm looking at because I don't know what I'm looking at. But then once I realized what it was, after a few seconds, I'm like, look, a UFO. So my girlfriend turns, sees it, and she goes, well, how do you know it's a UFO? And I was like, look at it. And I had just watched it vertically take off, right? And it's starting to come closer to us. And she was like, well, how do you know it's not just an airplane or something? And I was like, baby, look at it. I was like, if it was an airplane, it would have fallen out of the sky already. And she was like, hey, yeah, it is. It's flying really slow. And then as it got closer and closer, and she was like, look at the lights on it. And then she said the lights look like balls of plasma, which she's right. It literally looked like it had a hemisphere, ball of plasma on each corner. Now, remember, this thing is very low. Like, this thing is extremely low to us. Like, I think if we took a picture of it when it got as close as we were to it, it would be a closer image than the Belgian triangle photograph. I mean, this was taking off. Like, this was, like standing next to a helicopter taking off. So it lifted off. It flew over completely silent, no noise, no nothing. It flew over the neighbor's house, like just maybe feet over his house. Then it lifted up and started flying over the trees. So we're on the side of a mountain. So it followed the maybe call it 15 feet above the trees. It literally just barely lifted up above the trees and followed the angle of the mountain to the top corner of the mountain. So I ran it. My girlfriend, when this thing got really close, she immediately realized like this is not normal. And so she started hitting me in my arm and was like, quick, your phone, your phone. And I was like, what, why? And she was like, you got to film it. And I was like, oh my God. And I ran inside and grabbed my phone and came out and started filming it. By the time I came outside, I had a really crappy cell phone anyway, but this is the middle of the night. It's 3:30 in the morning. By the time I got my phone out, unlocked it, opened my app and started filming, it was far enough away that the lights kind of merged, like where the three red lights kind of merged to where it was just like a red blur in the sky. But I filmed it for probably about 2 minutes, and then I got annoyed because it was such a bad video, and I was like, it's such a crappy amount, you know what I mean? It sucked. So I turned it off, and then I was like, oh, I'm such an idiot. If this thing shoots off or something, I'm gonna miss it. So I turned it back on and filmed for another like 2 minutes. But this thing just very, very slowly like went up to the top of the mountain. I don't know if it shot off or it just peaked below the mountain. If I had to guess, I think it just kind of slid below the backside of the mountain, and I lost sight of it. And then we went inside and went to bed, and then we talked about it the next day. So the next day, my girlfriend had like burns on her chest, maybe like 12 of them. It was these perfect, it looked like if you took a grid, right, and you put it over her chest and just burned her with like maybe radiation or something. She had these burns. She had this massive bruise on her knee. What else? We found the footprint outside in the mud. It wasn't any of ours. She took pictures of that. I don't know if she still has them, but so when she found that footprint, she kind of, I don't know how to explain this to people. She didn't believe in any of this stuff, and now this really crazy thing happens. So she's trying to adjust, right? So when she saw the footprint, she went inside and took every shoe in the house and brought them out and was trying to, she was like, it's too big to be any of our shoes. And she was like, in it, she was like adjusting. Like,
That's
I
what
don't know.
made it click for her, was this footprint.
Yeah, that and the burn on her chest.
Yeah.
And then, so she told me that from her perspective, she remembered me waking her up. She remembered saying, there's nothing out there. I'll prove to you, whatever. The next thing she knows, I'm standing next to her, and that man is on the radio. She remembers running around trying to find him. She said, after that, the next thing she remembers is the craft outside. She was like, I remember talking about the lights on the craft. And then she wakes up. So she has a severely limited memory of, like, we had full, I'll give you an example. When I filmed, we had a conversation while I was filming, right? She didn't remember that conversation the next day. So whatever these drugs were, I don't think they were making you go unconscious. I think that what they were doing is they were affecting your memory.
Yeah.
Because like when she came up to me, she could talk and everything. She just, it was like you could clearly see she was on something. And then later on, she didn't remember any of that conversation. And I,
Can I ask you a few questions about the whole event?
yeah, sure.
Because thank you very much for the story. That's really incredible.
Yeah.
But I do have some questions before we move on. I know our time is limited, so I want to get these questions in. The device.
Mhm.
The beings gave you a device. Do you know what it was? What it was for? Why it was so important to these military guys, the men in black? What was that whole thing about?
Um, Man, I I've gotten away with not talking about it very much. You like every once in a while, somebody in an interview will pick out something that I said, and I'm really bad with like keeping my mouth shut. So I accidentally say stuff just because it's true. You're just telling a story. But the truth is that okay. So it might have been I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 nights. I might have been the very night before. So I'm trying to think of how that all started. Oh, right. So that started with the roof. So my girlfriend was in bed. I was in bed. I was wide awake watching a movie. And then it had snowed like several inches. So, in fact, it had snowed like twice. So it snowed, melted a little bit, and then snowed again. And in the mountains, like 2 o'clock, it's warm enough to melt. But then by 4 o'clock, especially if you're in the shadow of the mountain, it refreezes. So there was like an inch of snow that refroze into ice on the roof. And then it snowed like maybe 2 more inches. So I'm inside watching a movie and I hear boom, 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 boom. Clearly something walk across the roof right above the bedroom. And so I shoot up, and we had already been having all these strange encounters. Like this whole month, I said to somebody before, this month was the most busy month of my entire life, right? Like I've never had as many encounters as when I moved out to Appalachia. Like it just started happening. Like we were living out there for several months, nothing happened for several months. And then all of a sudden, this 1 month, it was like my girlfriend said it was either every day or every other day, something really crazy happened. So anyway, I wake her up, right? And I'm like, something's on the roof. And she's like, you've lost your mind, So I kept telling her I was being abducted. Like I'd wake her up at 2 in the morning and be like, they took me, they abducted me. And she would go, there's got to be an explanation. So even the strange stuff that she did see, she was like, well, maybe it's a military project, or maybe it's not aliens. It's something, but it's not aliens, right? Maybe it's a drone. Maybe that was a drone. Okay. So anyway, I wake her up and she's like, you're delusional. You're crazy. There's nothing out there. I'm going to prove it to you. She jumps up. She did the same thing like 2 nights in a row, right? This was night one. So she puts on her boots, slips on her boots, whips out. I wasn't as dramatic this night, by the way. So I was more dramatic the second night. So she steps out, right? And she disappears for like maybe 35 minutes. So I look out the window and I'm like, they took her, they abducted her, right? And so I'm looking out the window every few minutes. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just pacing. I'm looking out the bedroom window, looking out the side window. I can't see her anywhere. She's clearly not on the porch. And then, so I was like, well, I'm going to go look for her. So I get dressed and I look out the window. Like, I mean, I just literally moved the, call it the blind. I moved the blind, look out the window. She's clearly not on the porch. It's like 4x6, so you can see the whole thing. I let it swing, and I go to grab the door knob, and she hits me with the door. And so I panicked for a second and I was like, oh my god, I thought I was about to get abducted. And I was like, and she was like, move out of the way. And I was like, where have you been? And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you've been gone over a half hour. She was like, no, I haven't. She was like, I walked right outside. I walked right back inside. I've only been gone 2 seconds. She was like, I took a video. Do you want to see it? And she was like, no, there's nothing out there. So she kind of puts it in my face, and I can see that she did in fact take a video, right? So I'm like, so I look at the clock and I'm like, man, maybe I lost my mind. Maybe I've literally gone crazy. And she was like, you've lost your mind. And I was like, did I read the clock wrong? And I was like, but no, because I got dressed. It took me way longer than 3 minutes to get dressed. And I'm like, so she's almost convinced me that I've lost my mind at this point. But then so there was a nagging thing where I was like, well, what the heck was on the roof, right? And so I was like, will you just step outside with me? I was like, I just want to look and see what was outside. And she was like, hurry up. I just came from outside. Hurry up. So I go outside and I'm scared. So I'm like creeping, right? And she's like, hurry. She kind of pushes me. Anyway, I go around the corner and there is clearly 4 footprints on the roof, like clear as day, right? So I come around the corner, I see it, I point out, I'm like, look. And she goes, well, how do you know those are footprints? I was like, look at them. And she literally took her a second and she went, and she started hitting me. And she was like, quick, you got to take a picture of this, right? So I take my camera out, I hold it above my head to get as close as I can to these 4 footprints. I take a single photograph, and then I just black out. When I wake up, I'm on the wrong side of the bed. My pants are down around my ankles. My privates are exposed. I've got this crazy orange crystalline. So it looked like it was a liquid, right? And it like they rubbed it or put it all over my testicles, and then it dried out into this crystalline substance. It stained my skin orange, like iodine. And so I've got these 2 perfect oval shaped bruises up near my groin, like high up on my legs, right near my testicles. I've got this orange stuff all over my privates. So when I wake up, I'm like, I know something happened, but I just don't know what it was. And so my girlfriend, she had woken me up. I think she had gotten up out of bed to go use the bathroom. And so I woke up. So when she came back in the bathroom, she saw me looking at my own privates, and she was like, what are you doing? And I was like, look. She was like, oh my God, you got to take a picture of that. And she was like, look, you got to. I was
That's
like,
not
oh.
what you want your girlfriend to say.
Right. So I was like, I don't want to take a picture of my privates. She was like, the bruises. Take a picture of the bruises. And I was like, and I'm like, I don't know what just happened. I know something happened, but I just don't know what it was. And so when I sit up, I put my hand behind me and I feel something in the pillowcase. And I actually turned around and felt it. I put my hand on it, felt it like this. And it was really heavy. It was maybe 4 inches long, maybe, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch wide, maybe somewhere between an inch and a half an inch thick on each side. And so I felt it, and I was like, I must have hid like a knife in the pillowcase, because I had done that before, like a decade before when I got abducted. I started hiding knives everywhere, and I was like, if I could just make sure one was in arm's reach at any time, then I could fight back and I wouldn't get abducted. So I don't know how to explain this to people. I'm preoccupied. I have a situation going on here with my privates. So I turn around and feel this thing and I go, I probably just slipped a knife in. I don't remember what happened last night. So I'm like, well, maybe I just hid a knife in a pocket knife or something. And so I go and I've got this overwhelming thing of like, you got to wash it off, you got to wash it off, you got to wash it off. Like it's like reoccurring. It's like a mantra, you know. And I've got this orange substance on me. I did take a few pictures. I don't know if I still have them. It's a longer story, but um, so I go and wash myself off. The substance stained the water orange, like really stained it orange. Um, so anyway, that's what happened, right? The next night, when those guys were questioning me and they were like, "Where's the device? Where's the device? Where's the device?" It was like I remembered. I remember holding it. I remember looking at it. I remember it was on a table inside this room. I assume it was a craft. We were inside a craft, and it was one of the tools or one of the objects on this table, and I was looking at it. And they had some little conversation about me touching it, whether or not I should touch it or not. And like one of them was like, "Don't let him touch that." And like, and the other one was like, "You know, he can't hurt anybody with that. Like, he can't, you know, there's nothing he can do with that thing." And so there was this moment of those two kind of talking about me holding this thing, and then that's really all I remember
Do you have any sense of what this thing was? What it was for? If it's in your pillow, is it meant to affect you? Were you supposed to find it and use it somehow? What was it? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I mean, look, the honest thing is you know, I don't know if they let me steal it or if I did steal it. Like, I
So,
don't
so
know.
you believe you found something aboard the ship and you stole it? Not that it was given to you, but that you stole something.
I mean, I definitely took it. I don't know if they were just like, let him take it. I
Yeah.
don't
Okay. So
know.
you say you definitely took it. Do you remember? Do you
Oh
remember?
yeah, I remember putting it in my pocket. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't remember like it's it's so choppy. And it's one of those things that I'll tell you what I think. I think they knew I had it. So I thought I was being sneaky, but I think they let me do it. I don't think they were trying to stop me. I think they knew I was messing with it, and I think they just let me do it. Either that, or maybe they were too preoccupied to care, or maybe it was expendable technology to them. I don't know why, but I called it the remote. That's what I called it. I have no idea why I called it that. I don't know what it does. I don't know what it's for. It's just a black, kind of like a maybe not even black, maybe like a gunmetal kind of like color, and it's just heavy, like a piece of tungsten or something. I mean, it doesn't even look like a technology. Like it just looks like a piece of metal. It doesn't. You know, I don't know if maybe it's like a mind game. Maybe I honestly I have no answers, but I feel like if they wanted to stop me, they could have easily stopped me. And I also feel like they knew I had it. Like almost maybe they wanted to see what I would do with it or something. Like maybe they were like, yeah, let's see what he does, you know, kind of thing. Like where it's like introduce them to a stimuli and see, you know, maybe he'll figure this thing out or whatever. But I
So,
think
so, so, okay. So you
sorry,
remember the event. You remember the abduction experience
I
in
remember
that case?
I remember parts of it. I don't remember the whole thing. Like I remember being outside and following that one creature behind the house. So there was one of them in front of me, and so I remember that. And I remember seeing like a craft at the back edge of the house. But then it's like choppy. It's like 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, blank spot, 1 second. It's like it's so choppy that I just and like I said, the next morning I didn't remember anything. Like I literally, the last thing I remember is taking pictures on the roof. That's it. And then boom, I'm inside. Like,
Okay. Okay. So how did the men in black know that you had it? Did the beings tell them you had it?
no, I don't,
Do they have some sort of technology that can sense alien technology? Any idea?
maybe, but I don't think they knew I had it. I really don't think they knew I had it. Because like their questions were like, what did they look like? How tall were they? What did they say to you? What did they want? Like when they asked me those questions about did they give you anything? Did you take anything? Did you receive anything? Did you find anything? when they asked me those questions, they seemed to not know I had it. I think that they were doing like a procedure. Like I I think they knew. So remember, I'm the dummy that went on the FBI and was like, I had a close encounter with a UFO yesterday, and here's where I live, and this is my name. So what I thought was at the time is that the FBI kicked that over to whoever is whoever deals with it, right? So they were like, oh, we got this letter from this guy with a UFO encounter, kick it over to these people, just like they would do with counterterrorism. Or, they say, hey, this is not a FBI situation, this is a CIA thing. And they go, here, counterterrorism task force, here's a correspondence we got. It's your deal. So I think they kicked it over, right? They probably, somebody else told me that they didn't think that was the way it happened, but it doesn't matter. So at that time, I thought, okay, these guys got this thing. They went, looked at satellite footage. They saw this craft landed in the yard the night before, whatever, 2 nights before, whenever. I think it was one night, but whatever. A lot was happening back then. So I think they verified. So they knew two things. They knew this guy claimed to have a UFO encounter, and this UFO definitely landed in his yard. And I think they were just doing a procedure. Like, I don't think they knew who was in the craft, because they asked if I could identify the species. So clearly they
Yeah.
did not know.
Yeah.
If they had some sort of formal relationship with these particular creatures, why don't they just call them? Why would
Yeah,
they?
and they just had some standard questions they
Right,
ask of any interrogee,
right. And they
interrogatee.
and they didn't go straight for that technology, which is what I would do. Like if you could track it, like I wouldn't care what this guy has to say. He's got so whatever. I don't know what it was. I don't think it's a weapon of mass destruction or anything, but he's got something, right? That's what I would beeline for that. I wouldn't ask him all these questions if I knew, if I could pinpoint it somehow and track it down. So I don't think I think they knew I had an encounter, and that was enough for them, and they just wanted to know who it was, what did they say, where did they take you. And when they came to that question of like, did they give you anything, did you receive anything, like I was surprised when I said yes. Like I mean, I don't know how to explain it to you. It wasn't just that I was surprised, like I didn't want to answer any of their questions and it popped out. So I was like surprised that I was telling them things that I didn't want to tell them. But I also immediately was like, why did I say that? And as I was like thinking about like why would I tell them that? It literally, I remembered hiding it. I remember putting it in the pillowcase. I remember I had that thing. Like, um, you know what I mean? But it's like I said, that it's choppy. Like it's
It
not.
sounds like your subconscious was able to remember some stuff that your conscious mind wasn't. I was really fascinated when you told them that you had gone to the moon with these
Yeah,
beings.
yeah, I said that too. And
Yeah.
I don't remember going to the moon. Like I literally had no conscious memory of that whatsoever. They asked me and it surprised me when I said it. And then I was like, why would I say that? Like your first reaction is to ask yourself the question of like, why am I saying this stuff? Why am I it's the same thing with the aliens. When the aliens like are like, you have to follow me. And you start following them and you're like, why the hell am I following him? I don't want to follow him, but you're doing it anyway, right? It's like they literally are manipulating you some way. And so I asked myself the question. I was like, why would I say that? And I remember seeing the moon. I remember it out the window. I remember getting closer to it. Like, I don't know. I'm hesitant to talk about that because I just don't have a whole lot of memory of it. I don't want to lie, but I have this piece that it's like the the best way I can say it is I believe my choppy memory. Like I believe it. I believe that's where they took me that night. I I remember us getting closer. I remember thinking like, why are they bringing us here? Like I remember thinking like, what's over there? Like those types of thoughts. When you see something and you're like, just in the moment, just thinking to yourself like, what is going on here? Why are they bringing us here? What do they want from us? Like, what is this all about? Um, I believe those memories, but they are extremely choppy, and it makes me extremely hesitant to give people firm answers about anything. I do believe they took me to the moon that one night.
Well, multiple experiencers have reported beings taking them to the moon. Other experiencers have reported on military abductions taking them to the moon, or being involved in, secret space fleet type stuff where
Yeah.
they did go to the moon. So that does seem to be a thing for aliens and humans. I was also very intrigued when they asked you, had the beings given you any orders, which
Oh,
seems
right.
seems to me to indicate that at some point some beings did give some people some orders that the Men in Black didn't like and didn't appreciate.
Yeah.
So that became a standard question they asked. Uh,
Yeah.
I would love to know what sort of orders those were and what that, what's the significance of that. All right, in the amount of time that we have left, which isn't much,
Oh,
I
sorry.
want to ask one more question.
Mhm.
How would you characterize your alien or NHI experiences? Positive, negative. I know they're still ongoing for you. And correct me if I'm wrong. And how would you categorize that? What are they doing with you? How are you working with them? What do they want from you and potentially your father? And what is the military's interest in it at all, or the Men in Black's interested in it all? How does it all tie together? If you have any insight into that.
Right. So I don't, I think that they are doing some sort of genetic program. That would be these grays, these specifically these grays. I'm not talking about, anything else, but they seem to be every time I've ever had any kind of memory inside of a craft, they're always making you get naked. They're always collecting semen. They're always injecting you in the eye, in the ear, up the nose, in the leg, the foot. It's some sort of medical procedure. Always, it just is all the time. But then sometimes it's like they're kind of nice to you. It's really hard to explain. Like they'll answer your questions sometimes, right? So it's almost like we'll answer your questions, but we got to keep moving. This is and they've said that how important this program is to them. I've heard them call it individually a mission, and I've heard them call it program. I've heard those two words where they're like this mission, our mission, and then they'll say the program, like some sort of I don't know idea or whatever they're doing, whatever overarching thing they've got going on. One of them threatened to kill me when I got violent, and they basically said that they would kill me and they wouldn't even think about it. Like they would just do it because that's what they were like programmed to do. That's what they were trained to do. It was their job. And so I got the sense that whatever this job is to them, whatever this program is like important. It's like the most important thing to these people. Um, a lot of people think there's some sort of biological AI or android type thing. I think that's a very real possible. I think they number one are physical, and number two are genetic. You can see like when you get close to them, you can see their veins and stuff. I've touched one. Like I tripped. I was walking behind one. I tripped and literally touched them. Like they're physical. They're very biological. Even if they are some sort of android system of some kind, or some sort of maybe they're controlled in the same way that they control us periodically. Um, but they really care about this program, whatever this thing is, and it's clearly genetically based. So, as far as the military guys, I think my best estimate of this situation is that we are in some sort of contested space, right? Like there are different factions, and they have some sort of you know prerogative, right? Like you have these grays, and then you have these other ones, right? That people have frequently seen, and for whatever, like 1561 Nuremberg, right? You have all these witnesses of this aerial battle before humans even had airplanes. Like there's clearly a minimum of two factions that are having some sort of disagreement uh, for whatever reason. And what it seems like to me is that we're in the middle of this nonsense. It seems like there's at least two faction of these intelligences, or whatever you want to call them, at least two, maybe several, and they have different ideas of how things should go, and they're having some sort of disagreement with each other. And the military seems like they are just sloppy seconds. Like they're coming in, they're trying to shoot these craft down, they're coming in, kidnapping people, interviewing them, collecting evidence, collecting data. They they seem to be, it's at least as far as I could tell, mostly on the outside. If they do have some friendships with some species or something, they clearly are not friends with them all. They clearly are not. They didn't pick up the phone call, and say, "Hey, why did you abduct this guy yesterday?" They had this full-on covert investigation, and they clearly didn't know everything. Like they clearly, and then they came back later on, which I never talked to you about. So it's clearly they see it as. I think they treat me as like bait, where it's like an ongoing observation where they can collect data. Like this guy is being selected for whatever this is. We should just watch him, just pay attention to him, hack him every once in a while, take some of his pictures, question him, and threaten him a little bit every once in a while, and then just collect this data. Like he's giving us free data, and he doesn't really go very far, and he's kind of timid. He doesn't really fight back very much. He's the perfect guy to just watch and siphon data. Um, that's probably not the most elegant way of saying it, but that's my interpretation so far. Is that there is some sort of genetic program. There seems to be some sort of opposition force, and then there seems to be some sort of militarized, human faction that is just as interested in what is going on as you or I. I think that's the best way I can sum it up.
That makes perfect sense. I may have to have you come back on again. That's just such fascinating information, Justin. I really, really appreciate you spending this time with us and giving all these amazing stories and information. What projects do you have that people can, find you and find out more information about this? Yeah,
Oh,
how do people?
I have nothing going on.
You don't have a
No,
book or anything?
no, yeah, I do have a book. It's called Violence Will Not Be Tolerated. It's on Amazon. If you guys want to read it, feel free. It's, I think I've had so much stuff go on that it's the easiest way to kind of digest the vast majority of it. Is like it takes so long to explain from point A to point B, and it's something that has happened so often and periodically through my life that it's just easier just to plug, and then you can take it, for what it's worth. But yeah.
Well, I really appreciate it. Do you have a YouTube or a Twitter or anything that's
Yeah, you guys can hit me up on Twitter. It's unacceptable news on Twitter. It's Justin Bush 75071 on Twitter. If you guys want to say hello to me or reach out to me, I've got an email, unacceptable news team at gmail.com. If you guys ever want to reach out to me for any reason, if you know how to get the government to stop hacking people, you can call me. I would appreciate that. I don't
Hey,
like.
if you can figure that out, well, I need to put you in touch with John Stewart because he's
Right.
having similar problems.
Yeah, I've talked to him once or twice via email. He seems like a nice guy. Yeah, I kind of got carried away with the whole gray alien thing, and I was like, I bet my life on it. Which, by the way, I would. I just rarely say that to people. You know what I mean? Like, I get nervous. I don't like doing interviews. I don't like talking to people. I get extremely, extremely nervous, and I just kind of ramble. And I have a hard time, like, these things are so weird. It's so hard to describe them, to give them to somebody else. Like it's more than just I saw ABC. So I get really nervous and I have a really hard time. I kind of fumble around and I get red faced and I'm like, oh man, this isn't my thing. Like doing YouTube and interviews is not my thing. So I think the book is probably the easiest way to digest my story. But yeah, the creature I saw in 95, or excuse me, in 1993, the creature I saw in 2009, the one I saw what was that 2023. It's the same species. I've looked at thousands of pictures of gray aliens, pictures and videos, and I've never ever 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 seen one that was perfect. except that alien interview video. Is the only one. When people ask me, they're like, "Well, how do you know?" And I'm honest. There's no way for me to know. I wasn't there when it was recorded. I don't know who recorded it. I will probably die and never know whether it's real or not. But it doesn't even matter. It's absolutely perfect. It is exactly what I saw. Like that species, it's perfect. So when people ask me, what did you see? I always tell them, just watch that video. That's exactly what they look like. They didn't look like Skinny Bob. They didn't look like, I don't even know the other ones' names or whatever, but they didn't look like that. This video has everything correct. They don't blink. I've never once seen them blink before. I don't even think they have eyelids. Their mouth protrudes. That's one of the details people don't seem to realize. If you look at, there's some monkey species that you can easily see it. Like they have a protrusion right here. When they open their mouth, they have no teeth, right? Like half of the hoaxes out there, they blink just like, because they take a human, right? And then they alien it, right? So they take a human skull, a human form, and they give it like alien skin color and big goggle eyes. And so they have all these human kind of parts of these fakes that these creatures don't look like that at all. There's also another video that I think it might be real. I can't remember the name of it, but it's in France. It's the one where they throw a piece of fire at they're camping and the French kid throws a stick that's on fire near it.
You're gonna
Do you
have to
know?
send that one to me. That's not ringing a bell.
Wait, you don't know that one?
French
People,
kid throwing
people.
fire.
So there, it's in the French woods. This thing pokes out from behind a tree. They're talking about it. I used to have the transcript for it, but they're like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Oh, there's something back there." And the one's like, "Is it a cat?" And he's like, "I don't think so." And he throws a piece of wood over there. The video sucks. It's really bad. It's at nighttime. It's not good. But the one thing that it does is this. It does this. Like that thing, like it's so hard to describe to people their fingers. They have extra bones in their hand. It reminds you of like an octopus, and they do this. And we do this. We pinch, right? These creatures don't do that. They have these long appendages and they curl them in. It's the creepiest thing you've ever seen. But that video, even though the quality sucks and it's hard to see, that's that one detail that when you see that creature's fingers extend, I was like, oh, that might be. I wouldn't bet my life on it. The quality's too low, but that's the only one. There's the alien interview. There's the French woods one that I think it might be accurate. Well, the hand's accurate, but it's just the quality's not good enough to like. I just don't want to attach myself to it, but I think it might. In my personal opinion, is I hold that in high regard, even though the quality sucks. And then the third one is the basement. I think it was Mexico City or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think it's two photographs of the
Mexico City
creature.
basement.
Is the gray alien in the doorway?
Oh, okay. I think I know
You
what
know
you're
what I'm
talking
talking
about.
about? I
Yeah.
think it's two
Yeah.
photographs.
Hmm.
If you take the alien interview head, all right, and you cut it off and just paste it next to that picture, they're almost perfectly the same. I mean, it really is. They're extremely accurate. Those are the only three that I know of that are even close to what I've seen. Everything else is it's just wrong. Like the lips, the eyes, skin color, like everything is just bad. I'm not saying they're all fake. If there's a million bajillion creatures coming here, but I can tell you that they're not what I saw. None of
Okay.
those. Right. Sorry, I don't mean to waste your time.
No, 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 no. No, that's
I know
not
you
wasted
have
at
you
all.
have to
I
go.
had a follow up on that. I know we're trying to get out of here, but just one quick follow up. When you see that being in the alien interview video, assuming that's real, do you feel pity for it? As in with maybe a fondness for these beings, or they're not all bad or whatever, or do you
Mm.
feel like that SOB finally they got caught, or he's
Yeah.
what are your feelings for it?
I don't know how to deal with this. Like it's when I first off, I didn't feel any of that like pity. I know some other people said that to me, like they felt bad for it. Um, there's this weird thing. I have a weird relationship with them. It's extremely toxic. It's like your boyfriend that just beats you, but then he buys you like a nice car. So you're like, is it worth? Is the car's pretty nice? And so it's this weird, sick kind of twisted. It's like very painful, very It's a terrible relationship if you're thinking of it that way. So I don't feel any pity or anything like that. But the first time I watched it, I couldn't watch it. So I had never heard of it, and this guy sent it to me. And so he sent it to me, and it was a thumbnail with a link. So I didn't know what it looked like, and I clicked on it, and I started watching that whole documentary, right? And then when it got to the part, that documentary sucks. Like it's just like a fake reenactment, right? So it's like a guy with a mask on. He's oh, and so you're like, oh, this is garbage. Like your first thought is like, this is a waste of my time. So then when it pops up, when the narrator's like, for the first time, video, blah blah blah, and it pops up, I couldn't watch. Like I literally was like a child, like watching a horror movie. I was like, oh my god. I literally like had to watch it through my fingers, and I was shaking. I was terrified. It played through. I rewound it, tried to watch it again, and I still couldn't do it. It took me I think three times before I finally was like, okay. I calmed down. I watched it all the way through, and then I was like, oh my god, this is real. Like I literally was like, this is legitimate. I knew that. Once again, I can't say it's legitimate, right? I wasn't there, but it was perfect, right? And so the chances, like I never told anybody what they looked like in 1993 or 94 or 95. This video came out in 97, right? I had not described it, drew a picture of it. Back in the 90s, they said if you saw an alien or UFO, you were hallucinating. So just imagine somebody has created a perfectly accurate like 3 minute long animatronic replica of something you hallucinated in 1993. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
like, oh my god, this is real. And so what I did was I found somebody else that had zoomed in, they color corrected, they looked at different aspects of the video, and I just watched it and watched it and watched it and watched it. And when I was done, I couldn't find anything wrong. Like I was trying to find something wrong, and I just couldn't find it. So it is either real, which is what I believe. Like you hold a gun to my head and you say real or fake, I'm saying real. If it's not real, it is a perfectly accurate replica of what I saw in real life that I never told anybody about. Like the chances of that, of just accidentally creating, like, and all the other ones are bad. Like all the other recreations or fakes or whatever, they're so bad in every way. Like in every single way, the head shape. Number one thing, eyes. Stan Romanak, right? A lot of people are like, is it real? The eyes are horizontal. Like they're big eyes, but they're perfectly horizontal on the creature. Like that's not what I saw. I can't say whether that's real, but I've never once seen a creature that looked like that. Ever. Like ever. So when you're looking at something that's perfect and you're looking for as like anything that would, go like, oh, it's fake. If it's not real, the only way that I can even like consider that somebody was able to make it so perfectly is if they might have had access to one of these creatures, right? Like if let's say 1947 really did happen and they crash and they've got a body and they put it on ice or whatever. If the only way I could think that they'd be able to make something so accurate is if they had a body or maybe a bunch of video footage or something where like if you were going to make a fake $100 bill, a counterfeit $100 bill, how accurate do you think it would be if you've never seen one before? Right? Like it's just, you need to see one in order to make a perfect replica. And it's that perfect. It's so perfect that I literally tell people, real or fake, it doesn't even matter. That's what I saw. Like this thing can be completely manufactured. It's still perfect and accurate to what I saw in real life. Like it would be like making a perfectly accurate tiger. And somebody goes, what do tigers look like? And you go, just like that. And they go, well, somebody made this in their basement. It doesn't matter. It's a perfectly accurate representation of the creature. Like it's indistinguishable. A person that was a firsthand witness cannot distinguish it from a fake. That's how close if it is fake, that's how close it is. Um, and I've seen thousands of other ones. They all suck for one reason or another. They always get key aspects wrong. Always, always, always. Like the fingers, I talked earlier about Skinny Bob. the creatures that I saw, their fingers don't look like that at all. Like they're close, like they're kind of close, but they're wrong. The way that they move is wrong. Like they don't move that way. Like the Skinny Bob video, the fingers are moving very human. You know what I mean? Extremely human. Now, I'm not saying that's fake. Once again, how would I know? But it's not what I saw. So when you see 1,000, just fake after fake after fake after fake after fake, and they're like, what about this? And you go, the head is way too long, and it's just like fake, 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 fake. And then some random guy goes, hey, have you ever seen this before? And sends you a link. And then I literally was like a child. Like I literally was like, oh my God, this is impossible. Like I literally was like, this can't be. Like it took me probably 6 years before I'd even admit it to anybody. I did tell my girlfriend, but I was like, putting your neck out for something that you can't verify solely based on your personal experiences is risky. Let's say tomorrow the fakers come out and they go, look, we got the the thing in the closet. Like we did it 30 years ago. So it can invalidate you. And so I kind of just was like, I don't know if I even want to tell people about this. But then it got to the point where I was like, it's just perfect. There's nothing I can do about it. I wish it wasn't perfect. I wish that I could point at it and go similar, but it's really accurate, especially the eyes. One of the things you'll notice, so they don't blink. I've never seen them blink, right? I mean, maybe they do blink, but I've never seen them blink. So one of the things they do is they close the muscles around their face like this, and it narrows their eyes like that from the top and bottom. And it's really weird to watch, especially when they're doing like a surgery to you or something. They're like less than a foot away from you, and you watch them do that. It really freaks you out. It's creepy looking because it's so abnormal. They reminded me of almost like parrots, because when they turn to the side, the one eye is like bulging out on the side of the head. It goes up and around slightly, right? So when they turn at that perfect angle, you could see their eye bulging out of their skull, and our eyes are inset. So no matter what angle you turn, it never looks like that. And it reminded me of a parrot because of the like its peripheral vision is much larger than ours. And parrots have this kind of triangular shaped head where they have these two eyes that are on each side of the head like this. Our eyes are front facing. Like our plane of sight is this way,
Yeah.
and their plane of sight is like a horse, right? It's like that, like going to both sides. But yeah, anyway.
Well,
I've
maybe
rambled.
that's a good thing. They say, we have eyes to the front because we're a predator, like a wolf or something, and
Yeah,
deer, so maybe they're not predatory, but then they take you in the middle of the night. So never mind.
right.
Okay. All right. Well,
Sorry, I didn't mean to waste too
no,
much
no,
of
no,
it.
no. That's awesome, Justin. I really love it. And I thank you so much for coming on the show. Hope to have you again. Everybody give Justin a big like and a big thank you. Let him know what you think about his experience, and go buy his book and all that other good stuff. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.